Saitama's secret enemy shifts the balance of power, and top heroes are dropping like flies. The cover page of One Punch Man Chapter 224, titled New Blood 2, features an intimidating Genos hooked up to several cords, always pushing ahead, and always evolving. The Neo leader Axel just hacked into the side of Explosive Velocity Snail with his axe. Trailing behind the slimy trail maker, he confirmed that the poison from his new weapon was slowing the monster down. Up ahead, the rest of the Neo hunters had several poison spears at the ready. The monstrous mollusk rushed right into their trap and had no means of escape. Disasters continued to arise across the nation, but in this case, the high-speed threat had been thoroughly neutralized. The Neo hunters were cheering after their successful hunt. Back when they were vigilantes, many of them died against especially strong monsters, but in this case, they managed to slay a disaster-level demon, which is an S-class level threat, without losing a single person. This further validated the faith they have in Axel as their leader, and the one who made their team go legit. While they celebrated, the ever-serious Axel inspected the custom weaponry they received from Neo heroes. They were more effective than he even imagined. A definite upgrade from hockey gear and roller skates that would allow them to take down plenty of monsters back to back. This bit of reassurance strengthened his own belief in Neo heroes as an organization. And seeing as they're not just talk like the Hero Association, he expects the public to become more trusting of them as a group. From there, we move to another ongoing crisis. Three figures were lashing out at a hero with long tendrils coming from their mouths. The rank 25 A-class hero, Crescent Eyebrow, was struggling to repel their attacks with his Crescent Sword. He urged everyone to run away. Due to the number of their attacks, their disaster level fails to convey just how dangerous these monsters really are. And these disaster level tiger threats are the Triple Tongues. Civilians were disturbed to see that the hero was having such a hard time, and quickly losing ground. One of the tongues caught him by the leg as he tried to leap away, and things took a grim turn as it yanked his whole body. But soon after, the tongue was severed by 3 shots. Crescent was airborne, and the man responsible stood below with his weapon smoking. The hero hit the ground hard. Then there was a heavy stomp right in front of his face. Ryumon, the gangster Neo leader, has arrived. He thanked the man for his hard work, but insisted that he and his guys would handle the rest from here. The crime boss shouted for them to make a spirited effort, and they loudly agreed to do exactly that. But more specifically, they'll wipe the floor with the monsters the illustrious Hero Association's forces spectacularly failed against. Crescent was confused, but wouldn't turn down reinforcements. He decided to coordinate with them to take the monsters down. But instead, Ryumon told the chump to sit this one out. The A-class hero was bewildered. Not facing him directly, Ryumon told the has-been to pack it up already, along with the fact that they're just here to make it clear that the Neo heroes can stop enemies if the Hero Association cannot. So he thanked the bushy-browed hero for losing in front of such a big crowd. Crescent was struck by a mix of incredulity and frustration. Now our location shifts yet again, this time to one of the Neo leaders we're far more acquainted with. Wild Emperor had no trouble dealing with a draconic threat and was being praised by his many older juniors. They let him know that they already handled their share of the work. Focused on his newly minted battlesuit, the young hero congratulated them on a job well done, and told them to go ahead and take a break. But on account of their specialized gear, none of them had even worked up a sweat despite being average people not too long ago. But while everyone else was very happy with the results, Wild Emperor couldn't shake his suspicion towards the overly impressive technology. Seeing as Neo Heroes has mass-produced and given such sophisticated and capable battle suits to all 2,000 of their members, there is no doubt in his mind that the world's balance of power will be seeing an immediate shift. But to the child genius, the battle suits themselves are the far more concerning element here. They're not as simple as just being supportive armor. They sync up with the user's nervous system itself, thus allowing it to pick up on those electrical signals and conduct its artificial muscles accordingly. Reflecting on his days as an assistant, Wild Emperor remembered seeing similar schematics in Metal Knight's lab. So he's left to wonder if his former master, Dr. Beaufoy, is somehow involved in all this. If so, then between the Hero Association and Neo Heroes, Metal Knight effectively controls the military power of both sides. Wild Emperor can only wonder what the sketchy inventor is up to, but with that, he figures that taking the battlesuit off is probably a good idea. Time for another scene change. A, the former hitman turned Neo leader, easily beheaded an oversized monster, as the rank 34 A-class hero Feather and the rank 29 B-class hero Double Hole slid onto the scene like Season 3 Garo, in what I'm sure has to be an ironic reference. They immediately recognized the notorious criminal and questioned why he was fighting a monster. They decided that this would be their chance to capture him. Hefting his scythe, A let them know that he's currently on the job as a hero and is carrying out justice. Sadistically, he told them that they're free to approach him, but should be mindful of accidents in the line of duty. Moving elsewhere, we'd have another Neo leader who, like Wavy Gaza, decided that streaming his hero work was a good idea. Zaydatz, the obscenely rich Neo Heroes investor, was preparing to fight a giant monster. His broadcast was meant for his employees to witness what it means to courageously fight difficulties. Right now, he's wearing a special custom battlesuit that costs more than $1 billion, not to mention the additional armor on top of it. After receiving the notification that 915 employees have dutifully left a like on the stream, the suit entered combat mode, all while lighting up an expensive cigar. Smugly, the billionaire declared that if everyone else's battlesuits are like run-of-the-mill cars, then his is like a custom-made sports car. Or better yet, a space shuttle. And we all know how much billionaires love space and the ocean. We then skip ahead with a fade to black, and return to a barely conscious Zaydatz in the monster's clutches. His critically damaged suit failed to eject him. He tried to call for help, but his microphone was ruined too. The disaster-level demon, Meat Dumpling Kneader, was like a happy car crusher as it prepared to literally eat the rich. And while Zaydatz feared his own demise, 4 employees left a like on the broadcast. Below, his accompanying group wondered what they should do now that their Neo leader had been caught. That said, they couldn't really see what was happening to him from so far away. They considered helping him out, but the pompous profiteer told them that he wanted a solo showcase and would radio them if he needed any assistance. On another scene, the Neo leader, prophet, and founder of the Church of Otherworldly Reincarnation in Felsenave had kicked the bucket on his first job. His group could scarcely believe that his divine power had no effect on the culprit. The monster left without even looking at the rest of them, so they have no clue where it may have gone. One of the faithful begged the prophet not to leave them behind. They cried out his name, but ultimately, their leader seems to have already reincarnated into another world. 2 funny-looking Neo heroes observed the scene from a distance. They were unsettled by the monster's ability to pierce straight through the battlesuit, but suppose that there are just some opponents that can't be defeated even with a suit. Sweating, the one with the koala hairstyle, decided that they should just leave the especially dangerous monsters to the Neo leaders. As for our last transition, a baseball bat was swung with tremendous force. The former S-Class delinquent, Metal Bat, obliterated a monster while wearing a battlesuit of his own. Now, as a refresher, Metal Knight is one of the few people who knows that Saitama is insanely powerful. Right after the Monster Association arc, where we learn just how treacherous and intent on world domination Dr. Beaufoy is, Saitama destroyed his evolving robot guards. Without the full story, Dr. Beaufoy's shining reputation with the Hero Association was tainted for the first time. And after watching footage of Saitama doing so, the Doctor resolved to keep his eye on the unassuming powerhouse. The Neo Heroes have been more than accepting towards both heroes and average Joes. So if Saitama wasn't too lazy to be bothered with joining them when Genos presented the idea, they probably would have suited him up too. Now granted, even someone on Suiru's level was able to break the battlesuit just by flexing his muscles, so it's hard to imagine it keeping up with someone like Saitama. But even him breaking it would have been notable, and as we've seen from Dr. Kuseno's recent inquiries, gathering any amount of data on Saitama's physiology would be more than groundbreaking. Also, that Suiru moment was a manga exclusive edition that's at least questionable if someone as strong as Metal Bat can use a suit without any incidents. Now, as for differences between the manga and original webcomic versions, there are a good number of them this time around. The manga made the triple tongues more intimidating by having them hurl Crescent into the air, instead of just dragging him closer. Which makes a lot more sense, since close quarters would actually be to the hero's advantage as a swordsman against disaster level tigers. And instead of shooting them, in the webcomic, Ryumon just grabbed hold of Crescent's arm. And somehow that was enough to save him from the monster's clutches. The webcomic had an additional panel of him insulting the monsters after giving his group a pep talk, followed by a visual of them actually tanking the tongue lashings without taking any damage, which actually sells the difference between the suit's capabilities and the limits of an A-class hero. So despite the superior visual depiction, that last bit was a negative change for the narrative. In the webcomic, Child Emperor never changed his hero name to Wild Emperor, so that's not included. And the manga actually let us see the monster he defeated here. When it comes to the balance of power being upset, the webcomic instead refers to the possibility of a future in which high disaster level monsters are no longer considered threats, akin to how humans have mostly overcome dangerous animals by way of tools. A concept that ties in nicely with what Sweet Mask told Saitama about the impending third era of monsters. So that's a bit of a wasteful simplification. In the webcomic, Child Emperor wonders if he should take off the suit, while the manga's Wild Emperor is definitive in his decision to do so. His contemplation was also overly simplified in the manga. In the webcomic, he asks himself if his former master is trying to become a dictator. He says that he wanted to cut all connections with Dr. Beaufoy, but if the old man is trying to take over the world, then they're bound to face each other again. Which to me is much cooler, gives agency and clear direction for the character, and makes him seem more appropriately shrewd. In the webcomic, A's weapon is pretty laughable compared to his scythe in the manga, and instead of chopping through a monster, the webcomic has a funny cut to the forehead. Although, the original design of the weapon is somewhat preserved by the manga once the blade has been retracted. In the webcomic, the hero double holes nostril situation is some sort of natural disposition as opposed to the facial gear he uses in the manga. The webcomic included Tsuyu defeating a disaster level demon monster just before it could injure his group. This proved that he is undoubtedly S-class level. He was actually unimpressed by the monster's strength and decided to go for a walk instead. And being a notorious playboy, he offered to take some girls out for drinks instead of patrolling. This was scrapped for a few reasons. First off, the manga decided to tease his fight against Garo much earlier, and had that be his first job instead. Also, because the Super Fight tournament wasn't in the webcomic at all, he's less of an established character here. He doesn't really have a heroic spirit in the webcomic because he never met Saitama, so his priorities are money, fame, and women. And as far as the player gimmick goes, the manga mostly replaced it, as a sudden attraction for Wavy Gyaza compelled him to check out and ultimately join Neo Heroes. In the webcomic, Zaydat's battlesuit is closer to being worth $2 billion. And lastly, in the webcomic, the conversation between those funny-looking Neo Heroes was more in-depth, and specified that the monster that killed Infelsinave was a disaster-level demon, which I think is a worthwhile bit of context since so many monsters of various levels are roaming around right now, and a disaster-level demon taking him out and totally ignoring everyone else is way more foreboding. For me, these dialogue changes are indicative of uncertainty in certain areas. At the end of the day, the manga can only be so faithful to the webcomic due to how it's veered differently in the past, so certain things will have to be reworked. I get the impression that Murata is giving himself more wiggle room by being less definitive in those areas, a sort of precaution he's afforded by the manga being a web serialization. So things like this can easily be changed for the printed versions. Either way, I'm grateful to have received a lengthier chapter after so long, and hope you enjoyed it too. As always, I'm Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.